And a good morning to you. Welcome inside the bottom line. Manny Ford along with you, flying solo this morning. Stop it with the heat. 50 degrees. It's not right for November the 8th. One more day of heat, maybe a record breaker today, and low 80s, another one tomorrow, and then we're back to the 50s and maybe some rain. I'll go ahead and remind you about this just so that you know. Lincoln and Shelby will be the game we cover on WLON. That game has been moved till tomorrow night, Thursday night, same time, 7 o'clock airtime, 7:30 kickoff for Lincoln and Shelby playoff action. There may be other games that move. We'll try to keep you posted of it if we hear about those, but those are the ones that we know of for right now. Lincoln and Shelby, it does affect us. Couple of reasons. Everybody's out of school Everybody's out of school Friday because it is Veterans Day, and they are calling for some rain, chance of rain Friday, Saturday, and so you don't want to fall behind on the playoff games. And there's no JV games, so that allows them to kind of move up. They win, they get to move on for the next time. Let's see what else we got going on. Let's see. The Rams have signed veteran quarterback Carson Wentz. So that is news for right now. A lot of folks don't like Carson, but the Rams, I guess, need a backup, can't figure out what they're doing. And, when you get to this time of the year, everybody's throwing all the cards on the table. You're doing whatever you can to make it to the playoffs and try to make it a little bit further in. Richie, good morning. Glad to have you. Watched a little bit of college football last night. Not a whole lot. Me and Rolo fell asleep, and that's what happens sometimes when it's late and I've had a long day and I'm old. So I will give you what happened last night. Let's see. Find those scores from last night. Hold on. Sometimes it shows me top 25, and I need everybody. It's a big night in the MAC. That's who plays on the Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday night games. It was last night. It was Ball State over Northern Illinois, 20-17. That was a 3-7, and it turned out to be a 4-6 Northern Illinois. Central Michigan fell to Western Michigan last night, 38-28. Central Michigan scored 21-0. in the third quarter, but then they gave up 17 and couldn't put any more on the boards in the fourth quarter. So it was Western Michigan over Central Michigan, and then finally it was Ohio over Buffalo, 20-10. Tonight there's some action in the MAC. It is Akron versus Miami of Ohio. That's on ESPNU at 7. You've got Bowling Green versus Kent State. That is on CBS at 7. Then you've got Eastern Michigan taking on the Zips are the Zips Toledo? Yeah, I believe the Zips are Toledo. Eastern Michigan at Toledo. That's on the Deuce, ESPN2. So that's your games for tonight on TV and football. Tomorrow night, it'll be Virginia at Louisville. That'll be ESPN 7:30. It'll be Southern Miss at the Ragin' Cajuns at 7:30 on the U. Friday night, a couple of college games. North Texas will travel to SMU. That's a 9 o'clock game on the Deuce. And then late on Friday, I won't see either one of these, Wyoming travels to UNLV on FS1. Big games coming up on Saturday in college football. Michigan goes to Happy Valley, take on Penn State. That's the number 3 Michigan taking on number 10 Penn State. They're calling for it to be 38 degrees at noontime at Beaver Stadium in University Park, Pennsylvania. Other 12 o'clock games, it'll be Alabama taking on Kentucky, Texas Tech at Kansas, Tulsa at Tulane. I'm still surprised Tulsa fell to the 49ers last week, and I think there were some other folks as well. Holy Cross travels to Army, Indiana at Illinois, Maryland at Nebraska. Vanderbilt travels to South Carolina, Virginia Tech, Boston College, Georgia Tech at Clemson. 2 5-4 teams. The Tigers are a 14.5-point underdog. Be careful. Georgia Tech gave Florida State all they wanted. And isn't that who beat Carolina? I believe it was. I could be wrong. I'm doing from memory here. Temple travels to South Florida. Old Dominion at Liberty. Liberty has broken into the top 25. I thought they had. They're not listed here. They're 9-0. Let me go back and look at the rankings. I thought when I checked the AP poll that I saw that they had broke into the top 25. I'll give you that in just 1 second. No, they're in the top 25 in the coaches poll. In the coaches poll, not in the AP poll. So they're close. They may get there. We'll just have to see. Of course, nobody's looking at the AP anymore. You just look at those college football playoffs. That did not change on from last night. It's Ohio State, Georgia, Michigan, Florida State. Washington State is the one looking in at the moment. That's the 5 undefeated teams, followed by Oregon, Texas, Alabama, Ole Miss, and Penn State, and Louisville at 8-1 at number 11. If you do look at the college football playoffs, and I got this, yeah, that's where they're at. That's the 5. And I'm sorry, let me go back to Liberty is number 25 in the AP. They've shifted the polls around on ESPN, so I had to follow it around just a little bit more. A couple other teams of note in FCS, it is Furman, number 2 in the nation at 8-1. It is North Carolina Central at number 7. Looking on down through the list, I want to say Western fell out of the top 25. No, they didn't. They're at number 21, 6-3 at number 21. So they're still making a little noise. Carolina is in at 23. Notre Dame dropped 10-22 after their loss to Clemson. Oklahoma drops 5-16 after their loss to the Cowboys of Oklahoma State. Just to tell you what we've got coming up this morning a little bit. Let me back on up here. Yeah, Richie said it's Tuesday Mac Nation. Milton said, congratulations for Rembert. Ford was top vote getter in the town council race in Maiden, followed by Holly Crafton-Lay. And then Beth Rudisell was number 3. And then on finishing out a term, it was Ronnie Williams winning on that one. So that's 4 new members that will appear on the town council here in Maiden. Richie corrected me. The Zips are from Akron. Toledo is the Rockets. Toledo is the Rockets. Richie said we'll miss any game tonight. They're going to see Dave Matthews. If I had known that the Doobies were the opening act for the Eagles, I may even blew a couple $100 to do that just to see the Doobies. That's who the front band for the Eagles was last night. They were in Charlotte last night. If I'm not mistaken, they'll be in Raleigh tonight on that farewell tour. Richie said, yeah, it was Georgia Tech beat UNC, as did Virginia. So be careful. Georgia Tech may surprise you. MSN has an article from Yardbarker. They have put out a list of the 25 best Major League Baseball play-by-play broadcasters. All right, there you can go look that up. And Richie said, why did Notre Dame get to stay in the polls when they lost to an unranked team? Most other schools would have dropped out of the polls. The only thing I'm going to say there, Richie, is tradition of both teams, be it Clemson and Notre Dame. And if you can figure out how that beauty pageant works, that would be awesome, because I sure can't figure out how that beauty pageant works. Now, let me tell you what we got coming up here this morning. After we take a break, I'll take a break in a few minutes. I've got Tim Wilcox. He does Wrestling Evolution, live wrestling shows down at Cross Country Campground. He'll join me. And then after that, Juju will join me. And if you want to hear some feelings, we got into a little bit of Clemson talk, Dabo talk. That'll be the end of that interview. If you want, I don't think anybody really cares or is concerned with what I think about what's going on at Clemson. We'll just have to kind of wait and see. A couple other things that you want to know. University of Michigan says that Big Ten teams share its signs. To me, I think if you've got somebody stealing your signs, then you're too lazy to change your signs. I've always said the best way to do that, get away from the colors and the cartoon characters, and you got 3 people on the sideline, one of them's live, the other one's not. Go to a wristband with numbers and then change that numbering scheme, change what the code is. Play ABC was number 7 last week. It's number 43 this week. All they got to do is look down 43, here's my play, then they call the actual play in a huddle. That would take care of it. I think this is a whole lot about nothing. When that rule came up, that was when there was no way to video anything from the stands 173 years ago. So there you go. I'll talk to Juju just a little bit about JMU. They're upset because they can't compete for a bowl game. They're undefeated. They made a switch from FCS to FBS. And there again, some ugly, ugly rules that are ancient, 23 years old if I'm not mistaken. Clemson running back Will Shipley is expected to make a return against Georgia Tech. I'm going to be honest with you, watching the game this past Saturday, Clemson had a pretty good running game, had some pretty good backs to step in there and pick things up a little bit with the absence of Shipley. So it'll be interesting to see what happens from there. If you got a good stable full of running backs, you can make some noise. Also, I think this came out a couple of days ago. Big Ten formally notified Michigan that it could be facing disciplinary action from the league. That's what a Michigan official told ESPN. Of course, it's always on the QT. Letter was sent to Michigan as part of their sportsmanship policy. In the event it becomes clear that an institution is likely to be subjected to disciplinary action, they've been investigating Michigan for illegal offense, off-campus scouting and sign stealing. And, that's just, there again, that's a sportsmanship thing. When I was in high school, and I imagine back in the day, before video and such, we would go scout the next opponent. We'd get film, but we'd also go scout. That was another thing that we did. The Big Ten alludes to evidence of illegal sign stealing, which compromised competitive integrity and other principles. My only thing would be, and I think I've made this comment before, there have been coaches said, yeah, we need to get away from that. We need to get the radios in our headsets, in the helmets, just like the NFL has. We'd do away with all of that. Here's the deal. They say that publicly. From what I understand, they go back to their ADs and say, don't you do that because we steal signs too. Michigan's not the only one doing it. They just happen to be the ones that kind of got caught. And it could be, as I said, and I've said this forever, when Clemson got put on probation, if they went 6-5 that year, they would never been put on probation, but they won a national championship, and they were picking on them because everybody did illegal things. I can testify to that, but I won't. But I am an example of that. Lindsay said, Canes win in overtime. Great game at the PNC. Loudest house in the NHL. So the Canes pick up a win last night. Richie said where Michigan has messed up is that they had a paid staffer going to the other teams and games, and his flight and game tickets were paid for by the department from what I've been put out there. Okay, so it makes it okay if you just make it a secret and nobody knows it. I'm not so sure that works. Lindsay said, the first time I read the headline, I thought sign stealing. Why would anyone take signs off buildings? There you go. There you go. And Milton says the NCAA hates Jim Harbaugh. You're probably right. And then baseball news yesterday, Craig Counsell left the Brewers to go manage the Cubs. And a lot of people are hunting for some people that they think they're missing to get them to the next level. All right, let me take a timeout, and when I come back, Tim Wilcox will join me, then Juju will join me. Don't forget, Fort Rimmer will be back in the house tomorrow. Back after this timeout.
Whether it's a sit-down meal or a call-in for the drive-thru, Brookwood Cafe and Catering is the answer. A variety of meats, vegetables, and desserts cooked daily, or a hot sandwich from the grill, they have what you're looking for to satisfy your taste buds. If you need catering from 5 to 500, Brookwood has you covered as well. Stop by Brookwood Cafe and Catering at 202 Providence Mill Road in Maiden. Don't forget breakfast daily till 11 a.m. Open Tuesday 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., Wednesday through Saturday 6 a.m. till 8 p.m., and Sunday from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Call 828-428-8944 to place your order today.
If you ask around, you'll find Burke Mortuary has a reputation for excellence and commitment to value. They've built a reputation of trust for more than 35 years. Burke Mortuary is proud to offer personal attention, meaningful tributes, and the area's most affordable prices. They're also proud to offer you beautiful, state-of-the-art facilities. It's the perfect place to honor your loved one. So when choosing a funeral home, the choice is easy. Choose Burke Mortuary with locations in Maiden and Newton.
Covenant Church began as a vision of just over 100 people in 1984. Since then, Covenant Church has grown and currently located at 2168 Gastonia Highway in Lincoln. The Sunday schedule includes early morning worship at 8:30, Sunday school at 9:45, and morning worship at 10:45. Their ministries extend beyond Sunday. Visit their website at www.covenantchurch.church to see all they have to offer, and better yet, stop by and see for yourself. Covenant Church may be just what you're looking for a new church home. First Federal Savings Bank has been serving Lincoln County since 1940. And as it has been from the beginning, customer service is a priority to First Federal Savings Bank. They want to get to know you by name. First Federal Savings Bank has the convenience, the products, and the services that the larger banks have, but with hometown people that you see throughout your community. Stop in and visit one of their 4 convenient locations and see what First Federal Savings Bank has to offer you. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
Untangling your headphones, finding the right remote, saying goodbye to your favorite shirt that hasn't fit in 10 years. Why are simple things sometimes so complicated? Thankfully, with auto owners, insurance doesn't have to be one of them. Auto Owners works with independent agents who live in your community and answer when you call, so you can worry about more important things, like finding a new favorite shirt. That's simple human sense.
Call Mooney Insurance in Maiden or East Lincoln Insurance in Denver, or visit mooneyinsurance.com. Stifel Nicholas now has an office in your community. Stifel Nicholas is a full-service organization offering a wide range of investment vehicles and services. These include money market funds, CDs, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, annuities, retirement plans, and managed accounts, to name a few. Our financial advisors will sit down with you and help you tailor an investment plan, explaining strategies and investments which may help you achieve your personal goals. Call 4Rembert today at 828-624-7300. Stifel Nicholas, member SIPC and the New York Stock Exchange. And welcome back. Glad to have you here on a Wednesday edition of The Bottom Line. Lanny Ford along with you. Joined in the studio, as I am at least once a month, by the owner-promoter. Would that be fair?
That's correct.
Owner-promoter of Wrestling Evolution. And they've got an upcoming show this weekend down at Cross Country Campground. We'll get a little bit more information. Thanks for coming in this morning.
Thanks for having me.
You have been doing this. When was your first show?
June.
And you've been able to have one every month since June?
Correct.
And then will this be the final show for the Christmas break, or are you going to do one more?
One more December 9th.
December the 9th, and then you'll be back in
January. Toward the end of January.
Yeah. Got to have a little Christmas break in there. But a lot of folks have been missing that live wrestling action. When I was growing up, you got it all the time because it was produced out of Charlotte, and then that's how they got their TV ratings up, was to go and do all of the on-location events. And they were always sellout. All the little local high schools would have them, and then they went to places like the trying to remember what the one in Kings Mountain was called, but then they went to Spartanburg, and they went to Greensboro. And, of course, you had Grady Cole down in Charlotte. And you just had a tremendous amount of places, and they were usually sellouts because the big-name stars were there. Then when it kind of all got gobbled up and became such a production, people missed getting the live action, being right there in front of it, and that's what you've been able to bring back with Wrestling Evolution.
That's correct. We bring something different to the table, I believe, than what other promotions in the area produce.
I've seen a couple other signs. Usually they're up in the Hickory area, but I don't think I've seen anything that's local to the Lincoln-Catawba County area except you. And you looked around for a long time, then you kind of settled on cross country. Why cross country?
Well, cross country, they welcomed us with open arms. One of my wrestlers, he did a benefit show back in early 2022.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to him, talked about using the building to – originally, I thought they were only going to give it to me like once every 3 months. So then I was like, well, shoot, I'm going to have to find something else. But then they said, no, you can have it once a month. And they've welcomed us with open arms. They allow me a lot of leniency as far as, like, we go in on Friday nights, do partial setups. If we ever have to test any equipment, we go over and we can test it pretty much any time we want. And nothing, they don't ask for a dime extra.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's probably good for them, too. It gives notoriety of their campground. And I don't know, I know I've seen a car show or two and yard sales, but it's probably good for them to have a regular event that they can count on that can draw to make people aware of what they've got going on down there.
Yeah, it's advertising because almost all of my social media, I try to tag them in it as well to let the people aware of that they exist because we have followers from all over.
And we talked about it last time. You've been able to increase the card a little bit and add a few more matches as you've gone. You're able to bring in some different talent every month. Got some regular talent, but you're also able to bring in some others. And I would think that would be one of the ways to help grow what you're doing and help you evaluate maybe some of the newer talent that comes in.
Well, yeah, like I get hit up a lot by a different talent. I go to shows, I scout talent, and then it gives these guys a lot more exposure because of what we do. Excuse me. As far as the YouTube show that we do, we do things differently than, again, like I said, the other promotions. I feel, and with the YouTube show, I don't make a dime off of it, but it's to give these guys that exposure, and hopefully somebody sees what they can do in the ring or on the mic, and possibly somebody can, it'll be the platform for them to get signed by one of the bigger promotions.
Now I'm assuming that the YouTube presentation is after the fact.
Yes.
So that you've got people want to see it live and see what's going on, got to come to the show.
Yeah, usually we have about a 3-4 week delay. Like whatever we record this Saturday will not air. The first episode will not air for like 3 to 4 weeks.
And you do you break it up in pieces and you don't put the whole show out?
4 episodes.
Gotcha.
Usually for each show.
Okay. And so it sounds like this is not your first rodeo doing this, but it sounds like you've been able to utilize some of today's technology along with doing the live show to help promote and grow the franchise, if you will.
Correct, yeah, because I don't depend completely off online advertisement. We utilize YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever we can to get the name of Wrestling Evolution out there and continue to grow, because Cross Country Campgrounds is not where I'm wanting to stay.
Not going to be your final stop.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can understand that. So tell us a little bit about the card coming up this weekend, this Saturday night.
Boiling Point, presented by Air Force One Heating and Cooling of Hickory. It's also sponsored by Second Time Around Comics and More of Conover, Eternal Toys and Collectibles of Dallas, our newest sponsor, Lake Norman Hemp Company of Denver, and the Untouchables of Denver. Also that night, fans, we will have Pro Wrestling is for Everyone in attendance. They are a group that helps people with sensory needs, and they provide things for people with anxiety, ADHD, things of that nature. It's a small donation to them, and then they provide like a bag of stuff for people with that or with autism. This is the first time we've teamed up with them. We're going to be teaming up with them as many shows as possible. That allows for their schedule.
Let me stop there right a second. That's something that you've always done with your shows. You've always tried to hook up with someone to benefit someone else or some type of a cause, correct?
Correct. Well, this show, all my front row is spoken for already. But general admissions will be available at the door, and if they bring one canned food item, I'll knock $5 off the adult ticket price. The ticket prices for general admission are $15 for adults, $5 for kids, and 5 and under are free in general admission. The front row seats, like I said, they're all spoken for unless somebody cancels on their reservation. And then for the card, this week at the Cross Country Campground, 6254 Highway 150 East in Denver, North Carolina. We have 2 qualifying matches scheduled right now for what's called the Ascension Contract, and that match will take place in December, where we put a contract above the ring from a pole, and it's kind of like our Money in the Bank. The guy who obtains that contract will be able to cash it in at any time for a title match. One of the matches for that will be a returning Nathan Cross versus the young upstart talent we've had before, Luke Fury. Then another qualifying match will be Zay Vega. He was on our show with Hustle and Flow. He will be taking on Thomas Extreme. Then we will have the Wonderful Woo and a surprising Dante Khalifa. He's made 2 great showings in the last 2 shows. They will be taking on Peterbilt and our legacy champion, Tommy Okami. Myrick Moore will take on a returning Buggy Wright. Then we have Mason Allen versus TNA superstar John Schuyler. And then we have Whiskey Business. They're debuting as a tag team versus Cam Jackson and Kay Omari. And then we have, in our heavyweight title match, it'll be our champion, Christopher Prince, defending against El Guapo y Gordo Hernandez.
Okay.
And then in the main event, it'll be Don Furio versus Lucky Ali. And this is one of Lucky's last independent appearances in the area because he has signed with WWE. And he's to report to the Performance Center in January.
Wow. So there you go. That shows you how some of the talent can come through here and then kind of make their way up the ladder a little bit. Now, your talent, are they located within, say, a 100-mile radius of here? Or
I would say, some of them are, some of them probably may drive a little bit further than that. But the most of, because Carolina's north and south are just a hotbed for wrestling.
That goes back to the Crockett years. The Crockett promotions were, to me, and I guess it's because I lived here, but they were one of the largest wrestling franchises in the nation and kind of looked upon by other organizations, for lack of a better word. Back in the day, and you might could explain this better, but back in the day, like an NWA was shared across promoters. And they kind of swapped wrestlers back and forth, but you stayed kind of in your area. But Crockett was always one of those top respected and always had a lot of the top talent. And then as time went on, they kind of – I remember when they bought Universal and some of the others that brought talent in. And then they were kind of the last one standing when WWE or WWF back in the day kind of took everything away, and they did it as long as they could. But the Crockett family had been in wrestling for years and years and years, back to the dad, and just one of those storied wrestling families that did it right, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I agree. Billy Corrigan, lead singer of the Smashing Pumpkins, he now owns the NWA.
Okay.
And he's actually trying to revive some of the territory things with I think there was a group in Ohio. I can't remember the name of them, but they've signed up to be affiliated with the NWA, and he's wanting to try to build that and bring the champions back in. I don't know how successful it'll be. It's possible it could take off and be huge, and then it may just flop. I'm not sure, because wrestling today is not what it was back then.
And that's the biggest thing. I know, if I'm not mistaken, WWE got purchased. I think Vince is still a pretty good significant shareholder, but they sold some interest, and you don't know what effect that's going to have on things. But the opportunity to see, back in the day, to see champions come in and kind of wrestle live locally, you just don't get that anymore. I remember when NWA kind of expanded into Atlanta and wrestled at the Omni on a regular basis. And, of course, back then there was Florida Championship Wrestling and Georgia Championship Wrestling. They were all part of that NWA kind of circle where they shared champions and stuff. But from an old schooler, I love getting on TikTok and see some of the old school wrestlers tell the stories. And I don't know how many books I've read by the wrestlers that have written, because I want to know the behind-the-scenes stories. And a lot of people don't realize what these guys go through, just like your guys, to try to make it to that next level.
Oh, yeah, it's the hustle and the grind. Just like I'm a promoter, and I'm out here putting up posters and doing these radio interviews,
right,
and putting up signs on street corners saying, hey, we got live pro wrestling this Saturday night. These guys are, a lot of them, they're in the gym on a daily basis.
Oh, yeah.
They're traveling for basically gas money just to chase a dream. And I was there. I was that same guy trying to chase a dream. A lot of shows I worked when I was coming up in the business, I never got paid. And that was my own stupidity. But I make sure these guys are paid for whatever rate we agree upon beforehand. But it's for the love of what they're doing. A lot of the guys that are on my show, they have the dream and the aspiration to make it to the next level. And I'm hoping that Wrestling Evolution can be that platform to help them get there. And then that's a rub for us if they get there and they get their little documentary on WWE or AEW or whatever, and they say, hey, there's this group in North Carolina that gave me the chance when nobody else would, and that was Wrestling Evolution. That's
would if they brought back like you were talking about the NWA, if they brought back sort of a regional type product that was not WWE but had a deeper wallet to bring bigger names in, would it go today, do you think?
It's possible. But I see a lot of promotions that promote bigger, like even just like my promotions that they run in the high schools, and they promote and bring in the bigger names, and I've seen them not draw anybody.
Right.
So
there's not that name recognition that there used to
anymore,
be
yeah,
as well.
Yeah, because
I couldn't give you a WWE roster other than just a few stars.
Yeah. When I go around and I talk to people and I'm like, hey, we're doing a wrestling show, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I said, do you like wrestling? Well, I used to.
That was me. That's me.
But I liked it when it was, and then a lot of them, I get it. I watched back when it was, some people, I watched when it was Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair, and then I get to another generation, I watched it when it was The Rock and Stone Cold, and then I quit watching after that. But wrestling's never changed. The formula has basically never changed. We're always, great stories, great entertainment, great action. There's nothing fake about what we do. And that's the one thing I get from people is that, it's fake. No, it's not. No, it's not.
It's not fake. There may be predetermined outcomes, but the licks, the bruises, the bumps, everything that goes on is just as real as it could get. I mean, you still got to go through that to get to where you're going, and it's by your performance that you're elevated to the next level.
Exactly.
So nothing's handed.
No.
And read some of the stories where some of the guys didn't feel like they were getting the right shake. They didn't take the bumps. They changed the way things, and there were a lot of matches in the ring and backstage that were real fights because things didn't go the way they were supposed to.
Exactly.
And so that's not fake.
No.
That's not fake. And all you have to do when I met wrestlers when I was younger and look at their body, no, that's not makeup that they've got on their arms and legs and the things where they've taken the bumps and the bruises and all the things that happen. So, no, that's not part of it. I think the biggest thing to me that happened to wrestling is it became too scripted, too predictable, and too soap opera-y. It became where the storyline was more important than the wrestling, and that was never the case. The storyline never got in the way of old school wrestling.
Yeah.
The wrestling was still the important part of the match. And that's the thing that I think's happened to the high dollar productions now. It's too many writers, too many scripts, and too much storyline that you're missing the wrestling, and that's where it comes from.
Well, like, and I'm not bashing because WWE is the biggest one.
Yeah,
but they're the one. But on a 3-hour show on a Monday night, you might have 45 minutes of wrestling.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then you've got basically 2 hours and 15 minutes, well, besides commercials, of nothing but filler and talking and
promos
and
and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Going back to the fake statement, I had somebody ask me about wrestling, and I said, when you watch a television show, whatever it be, let's say Breaking Bad or soap operas, women, whatever, and you get so involved in a character or the story of the show, I said, because the TV shows,
totally scripted.
I said, do you question whether it's fake or not? And they'll say no. And I said, well, then there's your answer.
And that's where I say big time wrestling has gotten to. It's harder to get in and buy the character because the storylines are starting to get a little too unbelievable. In our day, when I was coming up, it wasn't hard.
Yeah.
It wasn't hard to tell who was the face, who was the heel, and you knew exactly what to expect. And then occasionally you would have that gotcha where somebody would flip or something, but you could get into that character. You knew what to expect from your wrestlers, and now you don't. Now it's just too a little bit over the top and unbelievable. And I'm not as big into the what's the word I'm looking for? High acrobatics that happen in today's big time wrestling. I want to see the wrestling. I want to see the feet on the floor. I want to see the old school stuff.
Well, that's the thing in the building that we're in. When it's such a low ceiling. The guys utilize the rafters every now and then. They'll swing from the rafters and drop a leg drop or something, but they can't really do the high flying acrobatic stuff too much.
For me, that would be great because I'm the old school. I want to see you work on the mat. And that's the way it used to be. Give us the address, the time, the prices one more time.
The Cross Country Campground, 6254 Highway 150 East in Denver, North Carolina. The doors will open at 6. The bell time will be 7 p.m. Front row's it's gone, but if someone cancels a reservation, there might be something open up. But if it were to have it happen, that would be front row seats for adults are $20, $10 for kids. General admission is seating, $15 for adults, $5 for kids. That's 6 to 12, and then kids 5 and under are free. And again, bring one canned food item. I will knock $5 off the adult ticket price.
There you go. Well, we appreciate you making us a part of what you do and your promotions, and we're glad to help as well as with the Lincoln Times News. You can always check that the week before match. You can see all the lineup and all the stars that are going to be there, and then we'll catch up with you again in December.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, sir. That's Tim Wilcox with Wrestling Evolution. We'll take a time out and come back just in a moment.
Whether it's a sit-down meal or a call-in for the drive-thru, Brookwood Cafe and Catering is the answer. A variety of meats, vegetables, and desserts cooked daily or a hot sandwich from the grill, they have what you're looking for to satisfy your taste buds. If you need catering from 5 to 500, Brookwood has you covered as well. Stop by Brookwood Cafe and Catering at 202 Providence Mill Road in Maiden. Don't forget breakfast daily till 11 a.m. Open Tuesday 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., Wednesday through Saturday 6 a.m. till 8 p.m., and Sunday from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Call 828-428-8944 to place your order today.
If you ask around, you'll find Burke Mortuary has a reputation for excellence and commitment to value. They've built a reputation of trust for more than 35 years. Burke Mortuary is proud to offer personal attention, meaningful tributes, and the area's most affordable prices. They're also proud to offer you beautiful, state-of-the-art facilities. It's the perfect place to honor your loved one. So when choosing a funeral home, the choice is easy. Choose Burke Mortuary with locations in Maiden and Newton.
Covenant Church began as a vision of just over 100 people in 1984. Since then, Covenant Church has grown and currently located at 2168 Gastonia Highway in Lincoln. The Sunday schedule includes early morning worship at 8:30, Sunday school at 9:45, and morning worship at 10:45. Their ministries extend beyond Sunday. Visit their website at www.covenantchurch.church to see all they have to offer, and better yet, stop by and see for yourself. Covenant Church may be just what you're looking for a new church home. First Federal Savings Bank has been serving Lincoln County since 1940. And as it has been from the beginning, customer service is a priority to First Federal Savings Bank. They want to get to know you by name. First Federal Savings Bank has the convenience, the products, and the services that the larger banks have, but with hometown people that you see throughout your community. Stop in and visit one of their 4 convenient locations and see what First Federal Savings Bank has to offer you. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
Untangling your headphones, finding the right remote, saying goodbye to your favorite shirt that hasn't fit in 10 years. Why are simple things sometimes so complicated? Thankfully, with auto owners, insurance doesn't have to be one of them. Auto Owners works with independent agents who live in your community and answer when you call, so you can worry about more important things, like finding a new favorite shirt. That's simple human sense.
Call Mooney Insurance in Maiden or East Lincoln Insurance in Denver or visit mooneyinsurance.com. Stiefel Nicholas now has an office in your community. Stiefel Nicholas is a full-service organization offering a wide range of investment vehicles and services. These include money market funds, CDs, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, annuities, retirement plans, and managed accounts, to name a few. Our financial advisors will sit down with you and help you tailor an investment plan, explaining strategies and investments which may help you achieve your personal goals. Call 4Rembert today at 828-624-7300. Stiefel Nicholas, member SIPC, and the New York Stock Exchange. And welcome back to the Bottom Line. Lanny Ford along with you here on a Wednesday morning, a warm Wednesday morning we can do without. We'll head to our phones as we always do. Bring on our good friend Juju Phillips. Good morning to you, sir.
Lanny, good morning. As always, a pleasant Wednesday to you. Thanks for having me on.
You know, it's hard to believe you wait forever for football to start, and then before you know it, in the blink of an eye, it's over. High school football is in its second week of playoffs. Division II college football is going to wind up the regular season this weekend, and playoffs will begin.
Yeah, and for Lenore-Ryan and the rest of the Division II football, there are, I guess, Lanny, about 17 conferences that play Division II football, and there are 4 that have their championship games. And one of them is the South Atlantic Conference, and the Bears play in the championship game this weekend when they travel to play at Tusculum in Greenville, Tennessee. So a big game for the Bears. They haven't won a conference championship since 2019, and I was doing some numbers work this past week and earlier this week, Lanny, and head coach Mike Jacobs he's in a pretty elite class of Lenore-Ryan coaches in terms of winning percentage. He is 4th right now, and he's actually tied for 3rd, I think, with Houston for winning percentage, like 77% of his games. But he's in the top 4, and the only difference between he and the others is they've won playoff games and championships.
Yeah.
So big games this weekend for the program for LRs. They hope to get back on the winning side and then look forward to the postseason in 2023.
Yeah, it's definitely been a good year. Wingate kind of snuck up on the Bears, but if you're going to take a loss, that may be the time that you want to take it. They're never good, but sometimes they can help you in some motivating factors. Who else looks like they're coming out of the SAC into the playoffs? Anybody?
Boy, it's depending on who loses in the region. The only other team that really has a shot is Limestone, a team that probably, LR's got one loss, probably could have easily lost that game at Limestone. Bears got some breaks, made some of their breaks late in that game, but they blocked a field goal that would have put them behind by 10. They took it down and scored, returned a field goal block for a touchdown, and then won the game in overtime. So that would be – Limestone is ranked 8th in the region, and there are 7 teams that go in. A couple of those teams are going to have to lose. At least one team would have to lose. Limestone would have to win, and they have a pretty easy game, I think, this weekend on the road. But Limestone would be – you can see right now that has a legitimate shot of making the playoffs, and they would probably go in as the 7th seed and have a road game, probably, I'm guessing, either someplace in Florida or Georgia.
Okay. Now, the Bears, they take care of business this Saturday, and then what does it look like as far as moving forward into the playoff, into matchups coming up?
Well, just like in major college football, the rankings come out, the regional rankings for LR and Division II came out earlier this week, and the Bears moved up a spot from 5 to 4. That means that the top 4 teams get home games in the first round of the playoffs. Top seed gets a bye. Everybody else plays. So the Bears a home game next weekend, should they win over Tusculum this weekend. Next weekend they'd have a home game, and then whether or not they win. If they win that game, they're likely to go on the road, possibly down at number 1 seeded Benedict, which is in Columbia, South Carolina. So the Bears have a home game. If they win this weekend, they would have a home game at the playoffs, more than likely, and then a road game if they happen to win their first-round playoff game. So it's going to get a lot tougher from here on out, but I guess that's what you want when you win if they can win a conference championship this weekend.
You have a pretty good pulse beat on what's going on, and who do you like inside Division II? Who are going to be the prime powers to kind of come out and maybe shake out at the end?
Well, it's the same schools, really, when you look at it, Lanny. Ferris State, they're out of Michigan. The LR played them last year to open up their stadium, their new stadium. Ferris State has won back-to-back national championships, and they lost a game or 2 earlier this year, but they're another team to watch out for. There's a school out of Colorado, School of Mines, and they made the championship game last year. They're ranked number 1 this year. They're undefeated. Grand Valley State, which is also in Michigan, they are a team that ranks 2nd in the nation, and they are a school of 25,000 students. Wow. So when I said it gets tougher, the private schools have severe disadvantage when it gets into the playoffs because you're playing these teams that have more, I would say, largely funded. They fund their football programs much differently and fully fund them than private schools.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you think about it. If you're a private school and you're charging $30,000 or $40,000 for tuition, well, that one scholarship's going to not go as long way as maybe a state school that charges $10,000 to $15,000.
Mm-hmm.
So they're able to get more players and have deeper, and it bears out landing in the championship games. They've been playing Division II football since the mid-'70s, and only two schools, private schools, have won national championships, one in '77 and another in 1989. So you're looking at, what, 35 years, 33 years? The last time that a private school has won a national championship. There have been schools that made the championship game, Lenore Ryan, Carson Newman, some others. But for a private school to go all the way now with 3 or 4 rounds of the playoffs against these big state schools, it's very difficult. It's just as difficult for schools in the FCS level, like a Furman.
Mm-hmm.
I think Furman's the last school to win a private school to win a national championship. They're ranked second in the country this year, but it's very difficult for these private schools to go on and make the championship appearance and even win a championship game.
Here again, you've got your pulse beat on these type of things and issues. I guess I've looked at scholarships. I just look at it as a numbers game, and it's not real money. I mean, I understand it is, but I guess what I'm asking is, so from a scholarship standpoint, if scholarships are paid out of an alumni association or whatever they're paid out of, that money transfers from them. They pay the tuition of what the going rate is for the regular student, or is it just a numbers thing to where we're going to eat 20 students' tuition? Does the money really change hands?
I'm sure when you talk about financial need, aid, and academic aid, I'm sure money does change. I mean, from a parent perspective, you want to know if your kid's being recruited by Division II school, what's my bottom line going to be? How much am I going to owe? What kind of money am I going to have to take out for a loan? And so it is a little bit of a shell game where you move money around. But the state schools can do it. It seems like they can do it a lot easier because they're only charging $10,000 or $15,000 for tuition and whatnot.
And I guess that's what I'm saying. Is that real money?
Yes.
Is it real money, or is it just the cost of operating the school?
I don't know the entire math.
Okay, but you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I do. I certainly do.
Yeah. And then the other thing with private schools, Juju, or it used to be when I went to Lenore Ryan, and even one of my daughters applied, got accepted, and a lot of the privates, and I'm going to say Lenore Ryan's kind of with the others, there was usually for just a student, you could look for about a half of it was going to get paid because they had grants and monies and all those type of things for coming to school there. Is that kind of standard?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think very few students pay the sticker price for tuition. Now, I think the ones that do, and you're seeing more and more of this in Division II level, are these kids that come from other countries and other nations. These internationally are paying full, as close to full tuition as students from here. And that's where you're seeing in terms of athletics, you're seeing from some of these other Olympic sports, two schools are going out of the country. They have, different connections, and they're bringing in kids from all over the world, from Africa, from Australia, Spain. Lenore Ryan's got, I think I heard their president say they have kids from 12 or 14 different countries, maybe more than that play athletics. They got some kids from Israel. They got them from Nigeria. So those kids, I believe, are paying a little bit more probably than your standard United States citizens are. I just think it's if we boil it down, when we're talking about just football and schools trying to win national championships, I think it's money-wise, it's just a lot more difficult for private schools to fully fund the football program, where it's a lot easier for state schools to do it.
Well, and I've always said that too. When you look at even state schools, you look at that in-state and out-of-state. Is it really real? It doesn't cost any more for that out-of-state student to come to school there, except that's what they charge. Or maybe I just don't know enough about it.
Well, you will have financial people out there tell you that higher education's a racket. So you might be right.
Okay, that's kind of where I was going, but anyway. What else you got, sir?
Well, besides the championship game this weekend, I thought it interesting that the two teams that you and I follow quite a bit, the Steelers and the Packers, were both part owners of the Packers. They play each other this weekend in Pittsburgh. And looking at the numbers of that game, the Steelers and the Packers have two of the worst offenses in all of the NFL. And the only difference is the Steelers are one of the few teams in the NFL that scored all year in their first 8 games, yet they're the only team 5-3. And they're not really getting good play at quarterback the Packers, who are struggling a bit. But I think that's a wider issue, Lanny, and I've brought it up before here, is that quarterback play in the NFL continues to be down. I mean, that's one reason I think why we see so many penalties called against quarterbacks for roughing the passer is they want to keep these guys healthy. They've gone through almost 70 quarterbacks already this year that have taken a snap under center in the NFL.
Yeah.
And there's just not enough good quality quarterback play, and it's hurting the teams. And I think you're starting to see that. And for the Steelers to be 5-3 with the quarterback play that they've got from Kenny Pickett and other teams that are struggling there as well, I just don't think the NFL product right now is as good as it can be down the road. They maybe because the quarterback play is just not that good. I'm
going to go out on a limb here, and I've said this a lot, and I think that Lenore Ryan has a shining example of validating my statement. There's a tremendous amount of talent that can play on the NFL level at any position that don't necessarily have to come from a Power 5 school. And we've got it doing pretty darn well in New England that came out of Lenore Ryan, and there's some others. And to me, Juju, even at the quarterback position, I think, and especially with the Steelers, it's a head coach that cannot change and adapt to the players that he's got. You know, the NFL is a little bit different than college. In college, you can go out there and recruit that kid, pull that kid through the portal, and you can just about zero in on exactly the attributes that you want that player to have. In the NFL, you hope that you get that right, and you get one shot depending upon where you fall in the draft. So, the reason I say that is go back and look at Brock Purdy. And he's having some issues now, but he was able to be creative and have success. And then I cannot think of the quarterback that came out of Division II that was starting in the NFL.
Yeah, the Badgett kid who's up there in Chicago came from Shepherd College. So he has struggled too. He last game he looked pretty bad. He committed I think 3 or 4 or 5 turnovers. But I think you're right, Lanny. I just don't think, and I'm wondering why don't you see the quarterback play as good as it used to be? Is it because of these kids are rushed through, they're drafted high, and they're not given any time to sit and wait and look and see and develop that way, but they're pushed right in? Or is it in fact that maybe the coaching changes, there have been quite a bit of offensive coordinator turnover, guys have been injured and hurt? There's just and maybe they're not fully developed. I think coming out of college, they're running the spread offenses. They don't get under center anymore. They don't necessarily have to read the whole entire field. They're looking at half the field. They're doing a lot of run-pass option. More running quarterbacks than ever before. You don't have straight drop-back pocket passers as you used to. I don't know what the problem is, but right now, if you look at the way the offenses are going in the NFL, with the exception of about 3 or 4 schools or 3 or 4 franchises, everybody else is pretty. They're struggling at the quarterback position.
No, I agree, and I think it's a combination of those items. I really do. I think the biggest one is it used to be the style of play in college was so similar to the style of play in the NFL they were pretty well league ready when they got there. Now, even going back to offensive linemen, they don't know how to do it because of the way they do it in college. It's so different. And, that's why I've always felt like, and hopefully we're getting closer to that, if there was a developmental league, a spring league, that you could take some of these kids and they could play a year or so to transition and develop into the style of play that's going to be expected at the NFL level, I think the overall quality of NFL teams would get better.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's part of it. I think off-season workouts aren't what they used to be.
They're non-existent.
What they used to be. Yeah, they are. They're just 7-on-7 in shorts and helmets. That's pretty much what it is. And it's tough to develop that kind of cohesiveness that you need in defenses when guys are running around in shorts and helmets. And I think it's more difficult to play quarterback now in the NFL than ever before. And I don't know how many. I mean, there's only so much talent out there.
Yeah.
It's not like these guys can grow on trees all the time. But you're right. It's becoming a little bit of a problem. If you watch some of these NFL games, it's hard to watch.
Yes.
I mean, it's absolutely hard to watch some of these pro games, and that's why I kind of tend to move myself back to Saturdays and enjoy the college game much more than I ever have the NFL game, with the exception of the Steelers.
Right. No, I agree. I agree completely. What else you got, my friend?
That is it. It's been football-centric here the last couple of weeks, gearing up maybe for the postseason. We need to get together sometime, and I guess we're going to return to our Monday night show starting next week.
Looks like it for looks like for next week we'll be back at 6 o'clock as we've kind of wrapped up Monday practices. We've got our first round of what we call tournament or playoff this Saturday. If we win, we'll move on. If we're not, our season's over. But due to weather and time, we've had to move the lighted fields with it getting dark at 5:30. So we've cut back to 2 days a week on practice, Tuesdays and Thursdays. So, we'll be back in the saddle next Monday right here on The Bottom Line. I do have one topic I want to get your opinion on.
Our way.
James Madison has made another plea to the NCAA Division I Board of Directors to reduce the program's FCS to FBS transition from 2 years to 1. The Dukes can be eligible to compete in a postseason bowl game this season if they do and they're undefeated. Now, this rule was 23 years ago, and as we all know, the NCAA runs about 4 or 5 decades behind on what needs to be done. To me, when you move from FCS to FBS and do that transition, there is no waiting period. You get the full rights and benefits of going to the FBS. They're not taking it easy on you, provided you play the required number of FBS games to make you eligible to go to a bowl or to compete for a championship. Your thoughts?
I think COVID changed everything. They were able to reschedule games and within a week. I just think the whole thing is silly. You're punishing a program that's doing so well,
right?
Because you've had some rule in place since time immemorial. So I just think they need just to move into the 21st century a little bit, and some of these rules are arcane and crazy and wild. You just need to get rid of them and welcome them in. And I'm sure they're using this as kind of a motivation, but they're eligible for New York.
Yes.
If they can. Well, that's a heck of a lot of money for that program.
There is, one of the things that's always bothered me is when you punish or penalize people because they're successful and it's stupid rules. It's just a rule.
Yeah.
Those are the things that have always bothered me. It just doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense to me at all.
The NCAA needed to get on board with NIL and transfer portal much more than they need to get on board with this stupid rule. They need to put their efforts in their efforts towards putting up guardrails and fixing NIL and fixing the transfer portal rules and stop worrying about this other stuff.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree completely. They're another one of those places that just can't get out of their own way. Or that's the way I look at it.
What's the old line? Wake up, America. Wake up, NCAA.
Well, the NCAA is just kind of getting left behind more than anything else. Places and conferences and programs are going to say, Okay, if you can't figure it out, we're just going to go around you.
Well, the big ones are the smaller programs in Division II and Division III. They count on the NCAA for to fund the championships and to run those championships as well. But in this case, I mean, it's really silly when you consider what's going on. Even make it broader, what's going on out in the world with all this, and they're going to punish the school for, expanding and wanting to get into to get a bigger piece of the pie. And they're playing under. It's not like they're 0-9, 8. I mean, they're having, and this wouldn't be a story if they were, struggling.
Right.
But because they're doing so well, yeah, man, they ought to just get rid of it and move on.
Yeah, I agree. Anything else?
That is it. And you are of the belief that Dabo is going to stay at Clemson?
I had a question yesterday on the show that more than likely the tea leaves say Jimbo's going to get fired by the end of the season, if not by 4 at Texas A&M. Somebody asked me, a Tennessee fan, do you think he goes to A&M? I don't. It's hard for me to be objective about Dabo because of my love and passion for Clemson. There's, Saturday just infuriated me after the Notre Dame game when he was so excited. He should have been excited for his kids, his staff, about defeating a number 15 team, kind of getting the train back on the tracks, and then he makes one of his stupid comments, as he always does. If Clemson's a stock, you better buy it because we're going higher. No, you didn't need to do that. That was totally uncalled for. That was a very arrogant statement that I felt reflected bad on the program. And the situation that I gave 4 yesterday that it reminds me of is a defensive back that intercepts a pass, returns it for 60 yards for a touchdown, and goes in and does his dance in the end zone. Yet it's left, and you're down 40 points. Shouldn't be celebrating that because you didn't. You. It's falsely inflated. Dabo's still struggling to get bowl eligible.
Yeah.
And so I just didn't think that was appropriate.
Maybe Tyler in Spartanburg really touched the nerve with him because he seems to have lost it ever since that happened.
Some people have said that may have been staged. Now, I don't know that. That's one of the rumors I've heard. The other thing, and you know who Pat Forty is, national writer. Pat Forty was asked by Dan Patrick, Pat, what was Dabo saying at that news conference when he had his explosion? Was he trying to get the team fired up, the alumni fired up? What was he trying to do? Pat Forty said he was trying to tell you that you better be glad I'm here. That's not good either when it comes across like that.
Okay.
And I understand he's even taking a shot at the board of trustees that they can't fire him. I don't know. I don't know. I think he's reading too many of his press clippings. And I'm not so sure. I'm sure he would have value if he left and went somewhere. But you've seen now when he has complete control and he doesn't make the right hires and he doesn't bring the right players in, whether that's staff members that used to do that and help him. Of course, he doesn't play in the portal. You go back and you look at that success and how much of it was really him. I've had people say, well, you don't have the receiving crew. Okay, then who's the recruiter? Who's responsible for that? Who's responsible for evaluating players? I'm pretty sure Dabo's going to get that stamp of approval on anybody they bring in. It looks like, and I'm not sure about this, it almost looks like he has missed on 2 quarterbacks. However, DJ is at Oregon State and, almost top 10 team and having success. Is it because you couldn't get out of your own way to do what you needed to do to make him successful? I apologize to DJ because I watched him play some Oregon State games. He's a pretty good quarterback, but you got to give him the right stuff to work with.
Maybe they haven't developed quarterbacks ever since Deshaun Watson left. I don't know what the answer is there. And there's another kid at Clemson that, well, not at Clemson. He originally signed with Clemson or verbally committed. He's now playing minor league baseball, and he's he's in AAA now with the Pittsburgh Pirates. His name's Bubba Chandler, and I believe he was a 4-star recruit coming out of high school, and he chose baseball over Clemson. So there's another guy, a quarterback that for whatever reason. It just seems like the recruiting is taking a step back
Oh,
over
yeah.
the last 2 or 3 years. They just need to get back to where they were 4 or 5 years ago, and I don't know if they can do that or not.
Well, I was getting ready to say, Juju, the recruiting process is not as valuable a tool now as it used to be. So if you can't adapt to how everybody else is getting players, you're going to fall even further behind, or that's my feelings.
Yeah, I mean, recruiting, you got to recruit the kids you already have on your on your roster to keep them there, the ones that are maybe thinking about transferring. You got to keep those guys. You got to re-recruit them. Plus, you got to go in the portal and recruit, and you got to get your high school kids in, and junior college kids that you want to recruit. So, it's I think it's much more difficult to be a college coach now, and there's been more change in college athletics in the last few years than been probably in the previous couple of decades.
I agree 100%. All right, my friend, good luck this weekend. Hope the Bears can pull out a win and head down the playoff road. I'll plan on seeing you on Monday. We'll be back on the air here live at 6 o'clock next Monday evening. Have a good one, my friend.
All right, thanks, Laney. As always, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. That'll do it for us today. Have a great Wednesday. We'll see you tomorrow. Mr. Rembert will be back.